Welcome back to Just AwFFL Sports. It's our first broadcast of the 2025 season. We are very excited to get into this year. I'm Jeff Capus, along with Andrew Fredericks and Jacob Fredericks. We have a lot to get to during this draft season. A lot of things happen in the off season. In this episode, we're going to get through some of the rookies that we're looking at, some of our fantasy football strategy, getting into some of the division, what we think are going to be the division winners, because we know that some of the better teams yield the better players. So let's look into that. And then we're going to talk about the top three 2025 games that we're looking forward to from a fantasy perspective. So let's get right into it. And let's start talking about some of the rookies that came out of this draft and where they might have ended and how we might think that they might impact some of these fantasy teams. So, Andrew, let's start with you. Who's the first guy off your list that you want to see in 2025?
First guy on my list is a tight end out of the Pennsylvania State University, Mr. Tyler Warren.
Check that guy off mine.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. I'm looking at him too.
I have put a list of six together just in case I'm sure we're going to duplicate some. But I remember watching this guy in college. He looks like an absolute monster. No one could cover him in college. I mean, at all. And I think he's just a mismatch for linebackers. He's probably a mismatch for safeties. He's going to be a mismatch for some nickel corners. He's got like a huge what's the word, like range, body size. Just and we know that the quarterback situation in Indy is going to be challenging at best. With Richardson and or Jones or whoever else might play in that arena. So you know that the tight end is going to get used a lot. So,
and the fun part is they do want to use him. And didn't they have him in the backfield in the first preseason game too? So he might get some carries. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, I think that's a pretty exciting one.
I would say he could be. Now, granted, could be this year's Brock Bowers from last year. So that's lofty goal. That's lofty goal
right there.
A lofty goal, but I think he can do it.
Yeah. All right. So where are you going, Jacob, with your first rookie that you are excited about this year?
So if you see all those logos on your wall, I'm gonna look at a guy that went to that particular school. I'm gonna look at Cam Scatterbo for the Giants. And I think the big question mark with him is what is his touches actually going to look like? Because Tracy had a breakout year last year, and then they go and draft a running back who can definitely takes a load of the football. He definitely likes the football in his hands. He likes to run people over. He likes contact. And now, will that limit him and how many games he plays? He's already dealing with the hamstring injury in preseason here, but I think he's going to get a lot of goal line carries this year. I mean, that's where he's going to thrive. He's going to get into the end zone, and touchdowns win fantasy games. Touchdowns win fantasy games. So I like Scatterbo. I mean, last year for Arizona State, he ran for 1,700 yards, 21 touchdowns. I'm looking at a guy who, if he can run for even 5 or 6 touchdowns in big weeks, and you put him in as your flex, I think people are going to be very happy to look at Scatterbo in New York.
Yeah, especially later in the season. I mean, we all saw him a lot. The guy's a bowling ball. He is hard to get down. I'm very excited to see how that translates to the NFL level. But I have heard good things. Hopefully, that hamstring is nothing serious. And yes, I think later in the season, you're right. He could be a nice steal for a late round rookie pick. I am going to go with the same position, and I'm gonna steer away from the number one guy, but I'm gonna go with R.J. Harvey, the rookie in Denver, and I think that is an offense where he can, in a Peyton offense, can end up being a Kamara level. He catches the ball. He's got decent size, so and with who knows what's going to happen with Najee Harris and his eye issue and where that's going to go. So I think I'm really excited to see how they use him, especially in a Peyton offense. He's young, he's got great legs, great speed. So that's the one I'm really excited to kind of see in that offense and what they do with him. I'm not quite sure, but I think it could be exciting.
Yeah, I've been
So,
reading good things about him in camp. A lot of everything I've read said that he's going to just absolutely thrive in the Peyton offense, and he could be the breakout rookie and could even be a rookie of the year candidate based off the usage that he's probably going to have there with Sean Payton.
yep.
Yeah, Najee's already like 3-4 weeks behind, so he still has to get back into football shape. So boys and girls, don't play with fireworks,
Yeah. Leave that to the professionals.
please.
All right. So, Andrew, who's your second rookie that you're excited to see?
Okay, so I got a couple, but I'm gonna go with this one because I've kept talking about him. Jacob's probably getting sick of hearing about it from me. I'm gonna go with a running back as well for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mr. Caleb Johnson. Um, I believe he's out of Tennessee, University of Tennessee. This dude has got wheels. He's got the size. He's got the speed. He's got an offensive line in front of him in Pittsburgh that is generally pretty good and kind to running backs. Heck, I think Najee ran for 1,000 yards last year. Jalen Warren always seems to do well, but Jalen Warren still hasn't been able to take over the starting role. They drafted this guy for a reason, and it's not to sit on the bench, and he can pretty much be a 3-down back. So with the quarterback situation, we'll see how that pans out. That could open things up if Rodgers does well. That's going to leave a lot of room for the running backs to run if he's chucking the ball all over the place. So I like Caleb Johnson a lot.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, not totally concerned. He didn't do great in their first preseason game. I'd like to see a little bit more in preseason. But yeah, no, I think the opportunity is 100% there. So, all right, Jacob, who's your second rookie that you are excited to see?
So I'm going to go with another running back, and I'm going to go with Travion Henderson out of Ohio State. Uh, I mean, you saw him in preseason with that kickoff return. And he looks
Boom.
electric with the ball in his hands. I mean, that's what you want to see from a running back, especially a rookie running back who may get more limited carries with Ramondre Stevenson still there. I still think Stevenson will get some carries, but they didn't draft him for no reason. He's not there to just be a third down back or to just get a few carries here and there when Stevenson needs a break. He's going to get a bulk of carries. And New England, they had 4.4 yards per carry last season with Ramondre. I think with a guy with Travion Henderson's speed, that those numbers are going to bump up to 4.8, 4.9. And I mean, they did also help fix their O line. I mean, you got Will Campbell in there. He just looks like an absolute beast up front. And if they can get that O line figured out, I think that Patriots offense could look that's one of the most electric in the league. And as we kind of referred to in the beginning there, good offenses get good players, a lot of fantasy points.
Yep, that's how it rolls. 100%. So I am going to switch positions, and I am going to stay in the state of Arizona, and I'm going to look at Tetroya McMillan. I think that guy, he showed me a lot in his first preseason game. I can tell you that he's going to get used. He's got size. They're already, building a rapport with Bryce Young. Um, so there's question about his work ethic. There were actually a couple plays where it just didn't look like he was going full speed, but he still produced. So if he can do that at kind of half speed in a preseason game, kind of excited to see what he can do, even though he's a cursed wildcat. So could be some exciting things for him in Carolina.
We did see that firsthand for at least a couple of years. He always did well against us, and he kind of destroyed most of the Pac-12. There I think we probably saw like 2 or 3 200-yard games out of that guy where he had like 10+ receptions. I mean, he was just catching everything.
Well, and part of their problem was they didn't use him enough. Like I
Yeah.
would have used him. He would have got 15, 20 touches if I had that offense. But you know what? Let's let them do what they do down there.
I'm okay.
Terrible
I'm
football.
okay with the strategy from last season. That was
Yeah,
nice. That was nice. It was a nice trip down to Tucson there.
yeah. All right, Andrew, who's your third player rookie?
All right. So I have 3 on here. I'm going to actually go to a position we haven't discussed yet, which is a rookie quarterback. We're going to go from the Tennessee Titans, Mr. Cam Ward. Um, I mean, he only played a little. I think only played like one series, but he went like 3 for 4 or 4 for 5, something like that, for like 80 yards. He was looking for Calvin Ridley. He hit him 3 times in stride. Everything that I'm hearing is he's got the size, he's got the arm, he's accurate. He's the first one in the building and the last one to leave. Um, so he's already taken on that leadership role because he knows he's probably witnessed this. We've all witnessed some of these knucklehead rookie quarterbacks who think they're the shit. Um, he does not play in the
I
number
know what
one.
that spells. I can
Kid,
spell.
he good. He got an education from Arizona State. Look at all of his diplomas behind him. He's a Sun Devil, baby. Anyway, uh, so I think he's got a couple of weapons. Pollard in the backfield's good, for dump offs. You got Ridley, Tyler Lockett's there, so he's actually got some things going for him. Callahan's always been a good offensive coach. That's why they have kept him there. So I think he takes a big step as a rookie.
I like it. Yeah, no, I had him on my list as well. I think you're dead on. He's going to have a huge opportunity, and let's see where it goes.
Jeff and I are in so much trouble in these next our 4 drafts together because we're gonna.
Yeah, it is going to be. Well, that's the hard part. Is like we got to. Hey, we come up with stuff. It is what it is. It just depends on where we draft. So, Jacob, your last rookie that you're excited to see.
So I'm going to go back to the running back position. I know all 3 of mine running backs. I'm going to go with Dylan Sampson out of Cleveland. I think the Cleveland offense is just it's an interesting bunch. I mean, with Judkins and his legal situation and contract situation, don't know where he's going to be. Jerome Ford had an okay year last year after a pretty good year the year before, but so he clearly Cleveland drafting 2 running backs. Clearly, Ford did not do enough to keep that job. But from what I was reading in camp from some of the Cleveland sources, they were calling him a Greek god in the backfield out there. But I think what we just kind of mentioned there with Cleveland's drafting situation, we really don't know what their quarterback situation is going to be either. So you really can't. He's going to be one of the most interesting rookies to see because that team is going to be one of the most interesting teams to see because you just don't know who's going to be on the field for them, whether it's at running back, whether it's at receiver, and especially whether it's at quarterback. I mean, they have 5 quarterbacks rostered, 4 of them are hurt right now going into this preseason game. So who knows what's going on in Cleveland? So I think he's definitely an intriguing rookie to look at.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, and we can talk about the quarterback situation here in a second. I'll go through my third, and then I do want to address another rookie there that I think everybody all knows about. But I'm going to talk a little bit about Travis Hunter. Uh, that guy is he's an incredible athlete to be able to play both ways. He brings a lot of energy, a lot of dynamicism, if that's even a word. I don't know.
Write that down.
But he's just. I think he's going to have an incredible year at wide receiver. Here's what I want to watch: how does him playing on defense impact the number of snaps he's able to take on offense? So, is that going to help? Is that going to limit him? Right? I've listened to some of these interviews of former NFL players talking about it. They're talking about 70 snaps is a lot on a human body, and if you're taking more than that, good luck to you, right? I mean, it may shorten your career, but it certainly could shorten your season. So, how I want to see how that impacts his offensive production from a fantasy standpoint. I don't know if I use a guy that I'm going to target where he's going in drafts right now for that very reason, but it'd be interesting to watch.
And it also depends on. Oh, sorry, Jakey. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and especially depending what kind of league you're in as well. I mean, if you're in a dynasty league, he's not a guy that I would target simply because if he's gonna play both sides of the ball, he is more likely. This is just like scientifically and what we know about medicine for the very little we know about medicine here is you can't. He's not going to be able to sustain a whole career of 10 years with just taking that many hits on every down of every game. He's not going to be able. Now, if you're just in a just a normal league and you want to take a risk of him, wide receiver is your wide receiver 2 or 3 or maybe 4, depending on what you're drafting your receiver. I may be willing to take that risk, maybe a little bit lower than what his ADP is currently,
It,
but overall, I think if you're especially if you're in a dynasty league, he's a guy I would stay away from.
But we
yeah.
also have to watch the scoring. So we have a super flex where we get to draft an individual defensive player. If that your league allows, if you allow draft him as an IDP, and you get points for him as a wide receiver, you're pretty much doubling up with one player. Now, I get that my gut tells me like the ESPN sites are going to have him like as a wide receiver and not allow for the defensive points, but it does make things a little interesting, because that's right, isn't
Well,
that's
so let's say you put him in your wide receiver slot. Do those
right?
defensive points come in?
Okay.
Vice versa, can I put him in a defensive spot and get those offensive points? So
Yes.
yeah, let's see if they can close that loophole or if it remains open.
I'm anxious to see that one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
We thought Taysom Hill was a problem there.
oh yeah, right. Yeah, they've got some logistical issues that they got to deal with. So let's talk about the last rookie that Jacob you hit on a little bit, and that's related to the quarterback situation in Cleveland and Shedeur Sanders. Unbiased, looked really good to me. Um, there were in the first half there were a few throws where I looked. They weren't perfect. They overthrew a guy by a lot. They underthrew another guy. Made another bad decision. But overall, A plus, in my opinion, on his overall performance. He hit a couple of windows where, I see Tom Brady hitting that window. I see Pat Mahomes hitting that window. Some of the elite quarterbacks hitting those windows. He may not have the strongest arm, but he made the right decision. He put the ball in the exact right place several times. Plus, he made good decisions on his feet. So, kind of excited for what Shedeur Sanders can do there.
Yeah, I watched the game that first half. I mean, I didn't particularly like when he was at Colorado. I felt as an Arizona State guy, I felt a little bit of a not even a rivalry, but I wasn't rooting for him. But seeing how he fell in the draft, seeing how the media talked about him, how social media talks about him, and the way he's playing in training camp and what he's been doing there and what he went on the field and did, he's a hard guy not to root for. And I agree. I think he looked outstanding. He looked like the starting like a guy who could definitely start a quarterback in the National Football League and have a pretty decent year, even with that Cleveland offense, which is not the most talented offense to begin with. But I'd be interested to see if, as the preseason goes along, I know he's injured as of today, and an oblique strain. He's not likely to play this weekend if he's going to one make the roster, which he should, but if he can make the roster, and two, if by what week is he on some fantasy rosters based on how he's possibly playing and starting?
Yeah, I promise you, he will make that roster. If he doesn't, he will be scooped up in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Andrew. It looks like you.
I think we also have to. I would be really curious. I hope he gets a chance to show what he can do with the first stringers.
Yeah,
Because remember,
that's the other
this
thing.
past
Yeah,
weekend he was playing like none of these guys were starting. Like Judy wasn't out there, starting running back wasn't out there, and Njoku wasn't out there, and he still did well. So doing well with the people, um, you know, for the most part, who probably won't make the team, or many of them won't make the team. I would love to see him. What can he and Judy do? What can he and Joku do? What can he do with a good running back do? I mean, that could be like insanity. Like,
yep. Yeah, give it time. And look, it may not pan out or be the right thing for this year, but over time, if he keeps honing the skills, and like you were talking about with Samson there, decent young core. Who knows what could happen with the Cleveland Browns in the next 3 to 4 years?
yeah,
So, all right, let's transition. So we don't know how that's going to impact them, in wins and losses this year. But let's talk a little bit from a fantasy perspective. One of my strategies is I look to get good players on good teams because good teams score a lot of points. So we're going to look at our projections for who we think are going to win the various divisions. So let's start with the AFC East. We went with you, Andrew, first. We're going to Jacob. We're going to go with you first. AFC East. Who do you got winning that division and why?
I think it's going to be the Buffalo Bills again. Uh, I just think that offense is too talented. They have arguably the best quarterback in the league based off skill, at least just purely based off skill and production. They have arguably the best quarterback in the league, and I think they're going to be out for vengeance again. Another heartbreaking AFC Championship game loss. I think they got to be out for vengeance. They're definitely possibly a Super Bowl favorite coming out of the AFC. I think they'll win that division pretty easily in the way it looks. I think New England will compete with them in the games that they play. I think New England's with Mike Vrabel is going to be really interesting, but I just don't think New England's going to have that full season uh, high that as the Buffalo Bills will.
Yep. Andrew, who you got in the AFC
Yeah,
East?
well, unequivocally, it'll be Buffalo. The Jets stink. The Dolphins are going to stink again. McDaniel, whatever the heck his name is, he'll be gone by the end of the year. I do agree with Jacob on the Vrabel impact on New England. Plus, the growth of Drake May should definitely help them this year. Keep it a little interesting, but I don't think you can bet against Buffalo.
Yeah, everything you guys just said. The only thing I will say is I'm going to put a tiny share in for the Jets. I'm not going to say they're going to win the division, but I don't think they're going to be horrible. I think Justin Fields is going to add an element that they haven't had, and they're going to win a couple more games than I think you think they will. So it's going to be interesting. Buffalo is going to barely win that division, but I think it's going to be close between New England and the Jets mixing things up. So, all right, stay in the AFC. Let's go to the AFC South. Jacob, who you got?
Well, this division is always difficult because some of these teams, I think these are probably some of the four of the most inconsistent teams I've ever watched playing NFL football every single year. They're always inconsistent. The games are always close between the four of them. But I think it's going to be the Houston Texans again. I just think on just pure talent alone, they're just better than all three of the other teams. I think CJ Stroud's actually going to have a little bit of of that junior growth. He had a sophomore slump last year. We kind of saw it, and they were still pretty good. They were still a pretty solid team, even with CJ Stroud having a sophomore slump. I think CJ Stroud goes back on the rise this year, and I think the Texans will win the division just based off his quarterback play. And I'm a huge fan of what D'Amico Ryans brings to that defense as well.
Yep, couldn't disagree. Go ahead, Andrew.
I should have checked the odds on this particular one because I'm going to go with the Duval Jacksonville Jaguars. Uh, New coach, new system. Liam Cohen, from the Bucks, who did wonders with Baker Mayfield. Um, I always thought Lawrence is talented. I just didn't think he had the right coaching to pull it out of him. I think if he's healthy, um, I think he's got weapons with Brian Thomas, and it escapes me on who their second receiver is. And of course, Jacob and I love us some Brenton Strange for the Jaguars. And their defense has generally been pretty tough. So I think they could do it. Like you said, this division is so inconsistent. I think it's anybody's ball game. So why not take the Jags?
And by the way,
Yep.
that second weapon you're possibly thinking of that might have been Travis Hunter
Travis Hunt,
on
that's a
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we
That's a
did
pretty
kind of have a
it's
conversation.
a pretty big option. I think we're missing
short term
in
memory loss. It's
in
hell
that
getting old.
So
in
yeah,
there.
no, I agree. And actually, it came down to those two that you guys just picked between Houston and Jacksonville, and I did circle Houston on this one. Just I think from a defensive standpoint, I think they're just a touch better. And that should push them over the top. But that's just how I'm looking at it from this season. All right, let's move over to the AFC North. Jacob, what do you got?
Oh, this one's difficult because I really want to say the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow. I mean Burrow last season. You saw how good he was. and they finished 7-9 or 7-10. They were Joe Burrow was probably like statistically probably the best passing quarterback in the NFL, and yet they went 8-9 or 7-10 or whatever their record was. So just because of how poor that defense is and how I don't really think they've improved it, especially in the offseason with Trey Hendrickson with his contract and all the noise out there, I think the Baltimore Ravens are gonna steal it once again. Lamar Jackson, they're just too good. They're just too good with Jackson and Henry, and that defense is competent enough. Although they aren't as good as they once were, but with Jackson and Henry, I just don't see a world in which Baltimore doesn't win that division this year.
All right, Andrew.
Yeah, I have the same two down. I have the same order too. Baltimore winning the division. Cincinnati probably make the wild card. Um, I don't think they have enough. They definitely have the offense, but their Cincinnati's defense, I just think pulls them back a little bit. Um, Now, could that change? Like, if heaven forbid Lamar should get injured or something, then I think all bets are off and it's anybody's game. But uh, Baltimore kind of proved that they belonged last year, and I think Lamar will be motivated big time for losing the MVP last year to Josh Allen. So I think he's going to be in the running for another MVP.
Yeah, it was hard not to pick Baltimore in this one. I get all the points made about the Bengals. Burrow's great. Chase is great. Higgins, he's great if he's healthy and on the field. I like a good Chase Brown, but that
Oh yeah.
defense just is a little too porous. I did actually have very, very close to Cincinnati, the Steelers. Nobody likes Aaron Rodgers. I get it. Personality, this and that and the other. Bring in DK Metcalf, bring in Johnny Smith, bring in Caleb Johnson. And with that defense, they're going to push too. So they're going to make that division a little tougher than you think. I think Baltimore does eke it out by a rookie field goal kicker. All right, let's move over to the AFC West. Jacob, who you got?
So we had one rule most of our pick'ems from last year. Don't bet against Patrick Mahomes, and we're not betting against Patrick Mahomes in this one. I think he's really going to have a much better year than he has the last two. Statistically, I think he's going to be out for blood after losing the Super Bowl, getting absolutely demolished in the Super Bowl. So I think the Chiefs win this division. I do think Denver makes it quite interesting. I think even maybe the Raiders push them in a game. The Raiders seem to. I don't really like. I haven't really liked Pete Carroll because I haven't really liked the teams he's coached, and this is not one of them. But Pete Carroll always seems to have some success. Some success. So I think those two teams, and even Jim Harbaugh. I mean, that's the coaches that are in that division is crazy. They have probably four of the best coaches in the league. So I think that's a very close division. But I do think the Chiefs egg it out. They just find ways to win games.
Andrew.
Here's my second leg of a two-leg parlay to go along with Jacksonville. I am going to take the said Denver Broncos to win the division. Uh, Bo Nix is for real. Bo Nix is for real. They got Cortland Sutton, who signs his brand new contract. As Jeffrey mentioned earlier, RJ Harvey. Denver's defense has played solid. And what they have, I think they picked up a lot of momentum last year, especially as Nix got better and better. He helped win us our Superflex League last year. Um, great draft pick by the three of us. I think he can only get better. And,
Howard Jones. Things can only get better.
Jacob, remember to try to plug that in there. I can't. You're right. Kansas City always seems to find a way to win, but I don't know. It's a long stretch to do it 4, 5, 6 years in a row. I think they're a playoff team. There's zero chance that Kansas City doesn't make the playoffs, but I think Denver can take the division, maybe just by probably by a game.
Well, this is why you and I share the same brain because I have those two as my top two, and I circled Denver. I think that defense is going to be just stout, and I think Peyton's going to bring a little bit of a flair to that running back position with RJ Harvey there. I think Denver has a shot at this. I think Kelsey is starting to be on the deterioration of his career, um, and that's big. He was a huge part of that run that they had. He was unstoppable, and I think he's stoppable. You know, quite frankly. So, all right. So that's where we're at on the AFC. Let's move over to the NFC East. Who you got, Jacob?
I mean, usually there's a trend that not the same team doesn't win this division twice in a row, but but it was a debate. I think Philadelphia ekes it out in Week 18. I think it's going to be close between them and Washington. I think Dallas will have a few good weeks early in the season, but I just can't see them sustaining it. But yet, I think between Philadelphia and Washington, I think Philadelphia ekes it out in Week 18, wins the division. But they're both going to be playoff teams, and I could see them meeting up in the playoffs once again with another. And I think Washington may even take it in the playoffs. But I think when it comes to the regular season in the division, I think Philly's experience gets it done for them, and Philadelphia wins the NFC East for the second straight year.
Andrew?
Yeah, I have to agree. As much as I don't like the tush push. I don't like, I love Saquon Barkley,
Stop taking my
AJ
Barkley
Brown,
fantasy points.
and Saquon Barkley for the sports. Love the team. Their defense is for real. They did lose some players, but I think they filled some of those gaps. So I mean, I don't think the Super Bowl was any kind of mirage. They are that good, and they can be that good. Although I would love to see Jaden Daniels lead the Redskins, the Commanders, to to the playoffs and division championship, just because even though he left us at ASU, I'm still rooting for Jaden Daniels.
Yeah,
But
no, he's
don't
a
win it.
tremendous talent, a good person for sure. So mine came down to those two as well, right? We can all say Dallas. They're not going to win the division. Giants, heck no.
No.
So it goes down to those two, and it becomes a coin flip. And I'm going to err on the side of what you guys just talked about, the Philly defense. Um, yeah, they did lose a few tools, but they've done a good job of stacking with young talent on that defensive side. So I think that's going to continue. And uh, in a close one, we're going to go with the Eagles. So, all right, let's move on to the NFC South. Jacob, who you got?
Honestly, this one was probably of the division winners. This was probably one of the easiest ones for me. Although this division tends to end up pretty close towards the end of the season every year, no matter how big the talent gap is, I just think the talent gap this year in particular is just too big. I think Tampa Bay Buccaneers have one of, if not the most talented roster in the NFL. I mean, you see the numbers. I think Mayfield is going to be even better than he was last season. And that team's just that good. I mean, Bucky Irving is going to be outstanding. I mean, even if Bucky Irving is not, they still do have Rashad White. But it's just the Buccaneers are going to so talented, and I don't see the Falcons quite winning it. Although I do think the Panthers will actually end up being a little bit better than most people think. I think Bryce Young is actually for real, and it's going to give Tampa a run for their money. But I think Tampa ekes it out over Carolina and Atlanta.
All right, Andrew.
Yeah, I gotta go with Tampa. I almost did pencil in Carolina as a potential wild card team, um, because I think they definitely take a step forward. But I don't have them. I didn't do it. I got wild cards for the other divisions, but I do not have Carolina penciled in. I gotta agree with everything Jacob said. They got the offense, they got the defense. I think they figured something out last year, and I think they're only going to improve this year.
Yeah, I'm going to pull my Jeff Corso on that one. Not so fast, my friends. Uh, the Godwin injury is. I'm not sure when he's going to be back. I get that they pulled in Egbuka. Um, a good team for sure, no question. I'm going to throw Atlanta in there. I think Penix strong arm. I feel like Bijan Robinson's going to have a breakout year. And by the way, they still have this guy named Kyle Pitts that everyone's sleeping on. And Drake London, not too shabby. By the way, they picked up a few defensive players. So, and by the way, if something happens with Penix, don't they still have Kirk Cousins, who I think if they let him rest for a bunch of the first half of the season, his arm just died towards the end of the season. If he gets a few
Yeah.
games within, he can keep him going. I'm going to go with Atlanta here.
Oh, I like it. And just for
Yeah,
the record, Jeff, Jacob's like busting at the seams because he has not shut up that this is Kyle Pitts' year
it's
for
gonna
the
happen. He's
last
20.
four
He
weeks.
hang
He
on,
has
hang on,
been
I have it
waiting for this episode.
written down right
This,
here. Kyle Pitts is only 24 years old. Only 24. This is prime time for a
It's
breakout year. It's gonna happen. It's finally gonna happen. This is
people
Kyle
are
Pitts'
sleeping
year.
on him. Yep, I don't disagree. I think that offense is going to have its way with a lot of teams. So, all right, let's move on to the NFC North. Jacob, who you got?
This one I think was pretty easy. Just because of just I can't bet against Motor City Dan Campbell down there in Detroit, up there in Detroit. Detroit is, especially their offense is very good. If their defense stays healthy, they have a top defense as well. They really just need to get those guys healthy. I think Green Bay will compete. I think Jordan Love is going to have a little bit of a bounce back here after he struggled towards the end of the season last year. I think Green Bay is definitely going to give Detroit a run for their money, but the Detroit Lions will win the division once again.
I
All
have to
right,
agree.
Andrew.
I hate having to agree with this boy so much. It bothers me. Uh, but I think Green Bay is going to be. Green Bay's got some issues at wide receiver. They got Jacobs in the backfield. Love already messed up his non-throwing thumb. I know they have Matthew Golden, who is on my sheet in case we had to discuss. I think he's a great addition, but with Wicks and Reed and Christian Watson, all kind of iffy. They all had spells last year where they were out. If everybody's healthy, they're dangerous. They are real dangerous. But Detroit, you know, they didn't lose anything from last year's offense other than Ben Johnson. We'll see whether or not that affects the offense or not. Um, I don't think it will. I don't think it will at all. I think Goff is still solid. The defense is always solid, and I think they have momentum and they have the drive from getting their butts handed to them last year by Washington.
Yeah. So I think they did lose things on offense. Two of them were very key pieces of that offensive line.
Oh,
So, and they lost their defensive coordinator and their offensive coordinator in the same year. Yes, Dan Campbell is a great motivator. They have a good core for that roster. They're probably going to get Aiden Hutchinson back. That's going to help. Still going to go with the Green Bay Packers in this one. Um, like you said, from a fantasy perspective, you just don't want to draft one of their wide receivers because the ball gets spread around so much. That's their strength. Like, if fantasy football, you don't really want to go with them, but I think they're going to win. They've got too many weapons on offense, and even if one goes down here and there, you got five of them. You have five wide receivers, and two very good tight ends. A defense that's pretty good, not great, but pretty good. Minnesota's going to win some games too to knock teams off with their defense, but they've got a rookie quarterback. Can't go with them. I'm going to go with the Packers on this one. All
carry
right,
it.
last division, NFC West. Who you got, Jacob?
Okay, so my original thought was the Rams if Stafford was healthy, but but I have changed my decision. I'm going to go with my second option in that scenario, but now is my first option. I'm going to go with the Arizona Cardinals. I I I, I think the Arizona Cardinals are going to win the division. I've put I hate believing in a team that I want to root for. It's hard to believe, but I just think the pieces they put together. Oh, whether it's on offense, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. just looks better than he was last year. I think he's going to look 10 times better. Honestly, I thought in the preseason game, I was there. Tyler looked really good, except the one really bad.
What
One,
was that? Like that wasn't even close. You can call
one
that an
really, really bad.
underthrow, but that was not an underthrow. That was like
From the replay I saw, he was looking in the middle of the field and trying to do one of those like no look pass things. Don't ever do that again, please. But other than that, he made it look pretty easy. Other than that throw, he went 7 for 8, 96 yards, moved up and down the field. The Drew Petzing offense can run the ball better than almost anybody. I think they got Will Hernandez back on that O line is going to help them a lot. And if they can get the D line healthy, they really improve the D line. Walter Nolan inside if he can get that calf healthy. I mean, Robinson, he for the couple snaps I saw from him in the preseason, he looked pretty good. And we didn't see much from him last year. They have Browning back. They signed a big guy Josh Sweat there, and they have possibly, and actually not possibly, the best rookie cornerback in the draft, Will Johnson, as long as he's healthy. I think the
And not
Arizona
committing
Cardinals,
pass interferences on the first drive of the game.
yeah. But overall, he's a rookie. He's going to make the mistakes. I think the Arizona Cardinals are going to win the division. But even if they don't, they will for sure make the playoffs this year.
Bold prediction. I like it. Andrew, who you got?
This was the hardest one out of every division. And I went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I wanted it to be Arizona. I thought about it being LA. I have to go with the San Francisco 49ers. I think last year was kind of an anomaly. Um, San Francisco is going to be much improved. Purdy's got his new contract. Ayuk will come back like in week 6. If Jawan Jennings gets healthier, George Kittle was an absolute monster last year. Um, and knock on wood, Christian McCaffrey is right now healthy. But take Christian out of the equation. I like what I saw at Isaac Guerrero if McCaffrey's out there. Now, he's not the same running back, but he's definitely serviceable for fantasy purposes. So, boys and girls, if you draft Christian McCaffrey, pick up Isaac Guerrero. There is no choice but to pick him up. You have to. Even if you have to take him a round or two early, pick him up.
All right. So we have dissension all around. I'm going to go with the Rams on this one. I am not scared of the Stafford problem. If it does linger and it does keep him out, I think they have a very serviceable Janine Garoppolo
Jimmy Garoppolo.
back
Nice.
there. uh, no, I think they run the ball extremely well. Kyron Williams is a beast. Backing him up is Blake Corum. You've got Devontae Adams as your number 2 wide receiver. That's insane. And a defense that's got some really good young talent. Jared Verse, I think he could potentially win the Defensive Player of the Year this year. So I'm going to go with the Rams in this one, just because I really want the Cardinals, but I have been an Arizona fan since 1988 when they moved here, and it's just really hard to go through high expectations. So we're going to lower our bar there, and we're going to go with the Rams. All right, those are our division picks. Let's move on. Our last segment is going to be around the big games of this year. So let's talk about some of the top games that you're looking forward to this year, whether from a fantasy perspective or just an NFL perspective. Jacob, what's your first game?
So I'm gonna go with the Lions versus the Ravens for on both perspectives. They're both gonna have a lot of fantasy talent with Mark, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, Jameer Gibbs, David Montgomery, Jared Goff, Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Those are all guys that will be in starting lineups every week in fantasy. Sam Laporta, guys who will be in starting lineups. So that's a great fantasy matchup on a Monday night game, I believe. I think it's like a
What week is that? Did you?
It's a week 3. It's a week 3 game.
Okay, all right, early on.
Week 3 game early. But I think also for more from the Lions' perspective to kind of see how they match up against. I mean, you saw them play the Chiefs in week 1 last season, but I think this year the Lions versus the Ravens is. I want to see how the Lions will compete with a guy like Lamar Jackson. They haven't really faced that type of quarterback in the NFC other than Jaden Daniels when they got their block blown off in the playoffs. So how they responded in a big early game against a Super Bowl contender as well. I want to see how the Lions perform there because I think we all know the Ravens are always consistently able to compete in those kind of games.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and I've seen the Ravens have barn burners where it's 52 to 48, and then other ones where it's 13 to 10. But either way, they're competitive against very good teams. So, all right, Andrew, who you got?
I'm going to go week 5. This is for fantasy purposes. Jeff's nodding. I think he knows where I'm going. Detroit at Cincinnati. We've seen a couple of games in recent years where the score has been like 50 to 48 for a fantasy game. Just two offensive, just going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I think this game has mega fantasy points written all over it.
Yeah.
Um, we know Cincy's defense has been bad. We know Detroit's defense. Look what happened to them against Washington. Can be meh, but we both know that. We also know that both teams can put up yards. Both teams can put up points. This could be another one of those like 50 to 48 games with a gazillion fantasy points coming at you. So that should be a fantastic game to watch.
That'll be a fun one for sure.
Yeah, you don't want to go
Uh,
against any guys on those teams on whatever
no,
whatever
on that
day that
week,
is.
you want them in
That's
your
not the
lineup.
one. That's not the one you want to go against.
Yeah, have them in your lineups for sure. All right, I'm going to go with week 2, so early on, but it's going to be the Chargers and Raiders, and it's our first look at Omarion Hampton and Ashton Genty after they've had a game under their belts. Two rookie running backs we did not talk about in the earlier segment, but I think both of them are geared up for very big years, and it's going to be very fun to watch both those guys go against each other. I think they each look at each other like, yeah, I think I can be the best, and I'm better than you, and let's see how that one plays out. I think from a fantasy perspective, it's one on one. Yeah, there's other players in that game, but I just want to see those two go head to head. I think it'd be a nice start to the season. So, all right, Jacob, who you got next game?
So I'm going to stick with Cincinnati as we've kind of discussed them a few times here, but I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Denver Broncos. For both fantasy and just a football perspective, I mean, I think we remember the game last year between those two teams and just the absolute shootout between Knicks and Burrow and with Chase and Higgins with the breakout game there. And I think all of those options are going to be there. But I want to see how Cincinnati's defense can keep up with Bo Nix this year. And if Cincinnati's defense can hold them off, I think Cincinnati will probably end up winning the game. But I'm really excited for an early matchup between these two teams. You know, we know Cincinnati struggles early in the season, so can they get a big win against a playoff team in Week 4?
I like it. Okay, Andrew, who's your next game?
So I got a week one matchup that's curious. I'm not sure how it's going to play out for fantasy purposes, but Pittsburgh at the Jets. You got Aaron Rodgers' new team versus Aaron Rodgers' old team. Does Quinnen Williams want to pop Aaron Rodgers a little bit after the throw? Does Rodgers want to just sling it all over the place against his ex team? I think it's got some. I'm sure if we start watching the, Sports Center, NFL Live, any of those things, that's gonna have to come up for Week 1. I think that's like a brilliant scheduling. I think they kind of knew that he'd be signing with Pittsburgh, and like let's put the Jets in and Pittsburgh together for Week 1. I think it's a great storyline. It should be very interesting to watch.
I like it. I like it. So I'm going to go with I'm going to go a little later in the season. There's a Monday night matchup in Week 10, and it's the Eagles and the Packers. And um, regardless of fantasy, I think this could potentially be an NFC playoff game preview. I'm not going to go as bold as NFC Championship preview. I think these two teams could easily face each other in the playoffs. But also, your fantasy week is going to ride on a lot of players in this game. Aaron Jones, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, J.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Goddard. The list goes on and on. And if you have any of the Packer wide receivers that are, one of them may emerge by that time, there's going to be a lot of important Week 10 fantasy games that are going to ride on that game. So that's what I'm looking for. All right, Jacob, who's your last big game that you're looking forward to?
So this one's really late in this season, so it may not even be fantasy relevant depending on when your league championship is. Sometimes some games are in some championship games week 17, some are in 16. Really just depends on the kind of league you're in. But just from a pure football perspective and for playoffs perspective, I'm going to go with my Arizona Cardinals versus the Cincinnati Bengals in week 17. Those two teams, when they have faced in years past, it's always been a fun matchup. I mean, the game I can remember was 2015 Sunday Night Football, Cardinals Bengals with Andy Dalton versus Carson Palmer. I mean, it's a shootout. Then I think it'll be a similar kind of shootout in this particular game, simply because they're both going to be bubble teams. I think they both struggle a little more defensively. I think Kyler's actually going to have a pretty good year. Harris is going to have a good year. But can the Cardinals defense keep up with those weapons in Cincinnati? I don't think so. But I think it'll be a fun matchup, just a high scoring affair between two teams fighting for a playoff spot or fighting for the divisions, depending on how the rest of the teams in the divisions are going to be fighting.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. Andrew, who you got for your last big game you're looking forward to?
My last big game, and for fantasy implications, boys and girls, Week 8 sucks. Let's put it this way. Week 8 sucks.
So many bye weeks.
There's so many teams with a bye. But the two teams that do not have a bye for Week 8 are Green Bay at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Another interesting one. We have Aaron Rodgers' original team against Jordan Love. Rodgers, Love, I think they're going to try to outduel each other. I think you're going to see a lot of points. It's only Week 8, so it shouldn't be like snowy weather and a white field in Pittsburgh by then. It could be, but it shouldn't be too bad. You got the two running games. We mentioned Caleb Johnson for Pittsburgh. I think Josh Jacobs has a huge year for Green Bay. Hopefully they have some healthy wide receivers. Pittsburgh, like you said, Jeff, with Rodgers, DK in there, Jonnu Smith coming over from Miami. If you need something for Week 8, this is a game where I'd want a few players in.
Yep, well, I like that one. So my last one, I'm going to go to the last regular season game of the fantasy season, which is Week 13. I did not go all the way to the Monday night game, which will probably have some implications, but I went for the Sunday night game, which is going to really probably seal some people's fates, and that's the Denver Broncos against the Washington Commanders.
Sorry.
A rematch of Super Bowl 22. Jacob, I don't believe you were even a thought in anybody's mind at Super Bowl 22. But, this is just a huge week for the regular season. There's going to be so many fantasy games fantasy leagues that rely on this game with Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix and RJ Harvey and, McLaurin. Like the list goes on and on of players that will. All right. So those are our top games that we're looking for from a fantasy perspective. This has been our initial episode, our welcome back episode of Just AwFFL Sports. Next time, we will get through some more of our draft rankings and draft strategies. And we look forward to hearing from you. If you have questions or comments for the show, send them to justawfulsports@gmail.com. That's justawful, AWFFL, sports@gmail.com. And for Just AwFFL Sports, I'm Jeff Capus. For Andrew and Jacob Fredericks, that is our show. Thanks for joining.